welcome, and thank you for joining me tonight on Mindleapic. This is a quiet place where we gently travel through history together, slowly, calmly, and peacefully, until sleep begins to arrive. If you enjoy calm historical journeys like this one, you might consider liking the video and subscribing to Mindleapic. It helps the channel grow and allows more peaceful stories to reach listeners around the world. And before we begin, you might like to leave a comment telling us where you are listening from tonight. Perhaps a quiet town in Canada, a city in the United Kingdom, a small place somewhere in the United States, Australia, or anywhere else in the world. It is always comforting to imagine many quiet listeners in many different places, all slowly drifting toward sleep together. Now, take a moment to settle in. Dim the lights around you if you can. Let your shoulders relax. Allow your breathing to slow down, just a little. There is nothing you need to do now, nowhere you need to go, only a quiet story and a peaceful journey into the past. Tonight, we will gently visit a small Viking farm during the long northern winter. Not the loud stories of battles or voyages that people often imagine when they think of Vikings, but the quieter side of life. The slow days, the quiet work, the warm light of a fire inside a wooden hall while snow quietly falls outside. So now, imagine with me a distant northern land, more than 1,000 years ago, a place where winter nights are long and the wind moves slowly across frozen fields. And there, in a valley surrounded by low hills, stands a small Viking farm. The farm is simple, not large, not grand, but steady and strong. At its center stands a long wooden house, built from thick timber logs carefully fitted together. The roof slopes gently downward, covered with layers of turf and grass that help keep warmth inside. In summer, that roof would look green and soft, but now, in winter, it is covered with a quiet blanket of snow. Thin smoke drifts slowly from a hole in the roof, rising gently into the pale gray sky. Inside that house, a small family is beginning another calm winter morning. But outside, the world is still silent. The sun has not yet risen. In the far north, winter mornings arrive slowly. The sky remains dark long after people have begun to wake. Snow covers the ground in a thick white layer. The fields that once held barley and oats now sleep quietly beneath the frost. The wooden fences are half buried in snow, and nearby, a small group of sheep and goats rest inside their shelter, protected from the cold wind. The air outside feels very still, very quiet. Only the soft sound of wind moving across the hills, and the faint creaking of wood as the farm buildings settle in the cold. Inside the longhouse, the warmth of the fire slowly fills the room. At the center of the house, a long hearth fire burns gently. The fire has been kept alive all night. Someone in the family always wakes during the dark hours, adding another piece of wood, making sure the flames do not fade. Fire is important here, very important. Without it, the long winter nights would be far too cold. The room is dim, lit only by the soft orange glow of the fire. Wooden beams stretch across the ceiling above. Along the walls, simple wooden beds are built into small sleeping spaces, each one filled with blankets made from wool and animal skins. The family has slept close together through the night, not only for comfort, but also for warmth. Now, slowly, the first person begins to wake. It is the mother of the farm. She moves quietly, careful not to wake the others too quickly. Her feet touch the wooden floor, cool but not freezing thanks to the warmth of the fire. She walks slowly to the hearth. The flames are still alive, but gentle. She adds a small log and softly stirs the embers with a wooden stick. The fire responds slowly. A few sparks rise into the air. The flames grow brighter. A little more warmth fills the room. Outside, the wind brushes softly against the walls. The longhouse was built carefully to resist the cold. Thick timber, packed earth, layers of turf above. These farms were designed by people who understood winter very well. They had learned, over many generations, how to build homes that could survive the northern cold. The woman places a small iron pot over the fire. Inside it, she pours water from a wooden bucket. Soon, the water will warm, and breakfast will slowly begin. Nothing fancy, nothing rushed, just simple food, slowly prepared. Barley porridge, maybe a little dried fish, perhaps a small piece of cheese made from goat's milk during the summer months. Food on a Viking farm was simple, but steady. Every meal mattered during winter, because food stored during autumn needed to last until spring returned. The woman moves quietly through the room, checking the wooden storage chests along the wall. Inside them are carefully saved supplies, sacks of grain, bundles of dried herbs, salted meat hanging from wooden beams above, each item placed carefully, measured carefully, used slowly through the long winter months. Now, the smell of warm grain begins to rise from the pot. Soft steam drifts upward, and slowly, one by one, the rest of the family begins to wake. A young boy sits up first, rubbing his eyes. A girl nearby stretches beneath her blanket. Across the room, their father slowly rises, pulling a wool cloak over his shoulders. No one rushes. Winter mornings are slow here. There is no need to hurry when the fields sleep beneath snow. Instead, the family moves gently through their morning routine. The children bring small wooden bowls. The father adds more wood to the fire. The mother stirs the porridge slowly, patiently. Outside, the sky begins to grow a little lighter, not bright yet, just a soft, pale gray above the snowy hills. Soon, the family will step outside. Animals must still be fed. Snow must be cleared from pathways. Wood must be gathered for the next long night. But for now, inside the warm longhouse, the day begins quietly. Soft voices, gentle movements, the steady sound of a fire burning. A simple farm, in a quiet valley, during the deep winter of the Viking world. And this peaceful rhythm of life will continue day after day through the long northern season, a life built not from excitement, but from patience, care, warmth, and the quiet strength of people who understood how to live slowly through winter. The morning outside the Viking farm arrives slowly. In the far northern lands, winter sunlight does not hurry. It rises gently, almost quietly, as if it too feels the cold and wishes to move slowly. The sky above the valley turns from deep gray to pale silver. A thin light spreads across the snow-covered ground. The farm buildings appear clearly now. The longhouse stands at the center, long and low against the winter wind. Nearby are smaller wooden structures, a storehouse raised on short wooden posts, a shelter for animals, and a small shed where tools are kept safe from snow and ice. Each building has been placed carefully. Viking farmers understood the land very well. They knew where the wind traveled, where snow gathered, and where the ground remained dry. So their farms were never random. Every fence, every roof, every doorway had a purpose. Inside the longhouse, the family slowly finishes their warm morning meal. The porridge is thick and simple, barley grains softened by heat and water. A small spoon of honey is shared between the children, a precious sweetness saved carefully since autumn. The warmth of the food spreads gently through their bodies. Winter work requires strength, even if the days are calm. The father pulls on his thick wool tunic. Over it, he places a heavy cloak made from sheep wool. It smells faintly of smoke from many nights spent near the hearth. The children wrap themselves in smaller cloaks. Their boots are made from soft leather, lined with fur inside to keep their feet warm. Clothing on a Viking farm was always practical. Everything was made to survive the cold. Wool, fur, leather, thick woven cloth. The mother ties a scarf around her hair and opens the wooden door. The cold air greets them immediately. It is not a sudden, violent cold, but a steady northern chill, the kind that quietly settles into the air during winter months. Their breath becomes visible, small white clouds drifting slowly away with each quiet breath. The snow outside reaches halfway up the wooden fence posts. The valley looks peaceful, almost silent. Even the trees seem to stand quietly, their branches holding small blankets of snow. The family steps carefully along a narrow path that has already been packed down by many footsteps over the winter weeks. Their first stop is the animal shelter. Animals were one of the most important parts of any Viking farm. Without them, life through winter would be much harder. Inside the shelter, several sheep rest quietly on thick layers of straw. Their warm breath fills the small space. Nearby, 2 goats stand patiently, already awake, waiting for their morning feed. Animals were always kept close to the longhouse during winter, sometimes even inside a shared part of the building, so their warmth could help warm the living space. The father opens a wooden storage box filled with dried hay. This hay was cut during the summer months, when the fields were green and full. Families spent long days drying grasses in the sun, gathering as much as possible before autumn rains arrived. Because once winter came, the animals would depend entirely on those stored bundles of summer grass. He lifts a bundle of hay and spreads it gently across the floor. The sheep move slowly toward it, chewing quietly. The soft sound of animals eating fills the shelter. A peaceful sound, a slow sound, the kind of quiet rhythm that belongs to winter mornings. The children help refill a small wooden water trough. Ice has formed along the edges during the night. The boy taps it gently with a stick, breaking the thin frozen layer so the animals can drink. Even these small tasks are important. On a Viking farm, everyone helped. Even the youngest members of the family had daily responsibilities. Not difficult work, but steady work. Work that kept the farm alive through the long season. Outside again, the wind moves softly across the valley. The pale winter sun finally appears above the hills. It does not climb very high in the sky. During northern winters, the sun travels low and slowly. Its light feels soft and distant. The mother walks toward the small storehouse. This building stands slightly raised above the ground. 4 thick wooden posts hold it above the snow and damp earth. This helps keep food dry and protects it from animals searching for winter meals. Inside the storehouse are the treasures of the farm: barrels of salted fish, bundles of dried herbs, sacks of barley and rye, hard cheeses wrapped carefully in cloth, and long strips of smoked meat hanging from wooden beams. All of it prepared during the warmer months, all of it saved carefully, piece by piece, so the family could eat well through winter. The door creaks softly as she opens it. Cold air moves slowly inside. She takes a small sack of grain, enough for the day's cooking, nothing more. Food is always measured carefully in winter. It must last until spring returns, when animals give fresh milk again, and new crops begin to grow. Meanwhile, the father walks toward the edge of the farm. There stands a tall stack of firewood, neatly piled beside a wooden wall. Firewood is perhaps the most important resource during winter. Without it, the longhouse would grow cold. Cooking would stop. Warmth would disappear. So, during autumn, Viking families spent many days cutting and stacking wood, logs from nearby forests, branches from fallen trees, every piece carefully gathered. Now he lifts several pieces and carries them back toward the longhouse. The snow crunches softly beneath his boots, a familiar sound, a quiet winter sound. Inside the house again, the fire welcomes the fresh wood. Flames rise slowly, licking the new logs. The warmth spreads again through the long wooden room. The children return shortly after, their cheeks slightly pink from the cold air. They hang their cloaks beside the wall. Steam rises gently as the snow melts from the wool. Outside, the farm returns to stillness, animals resting, smoke rising slowly from the roof, the winter sun resting low above the white valley. Inside, the Viking family continues their quiet day. Winter is not a season of rushing. It is a season of patience, of small tasks, of warm fires and slow work. And day after day, in farms like this one across the northern lands, families move gently through the same calm rhythm, feeding animals, preparing food, mending tools, watching the quiet sky, living slowly and carefully through the long northern winter. The winter day continues slowly across the small Viking farm. The sun, low in the sky, spreads a pale light across the snow. It does not feel strong or warm. It simply rests above the valley, like a quiet lantern hanging over the white land. Inside the longhouse, the fire burns steadily. The flames move softly around the pieces of wood. A quiet crackling sound fills the room, steady and calm. The smoke drifts upward toward the opening in the roof, where it slips slowly into the cold air outside. The warmth from the fire spreads gently across the wooden floor. It is not hot, but it is enough to make the room comfortable, enough to keep the family safe from the deep winter cold that waits outside. The mother sits near the hearth now. In her hands is a small wooden spindle. A bundle of soft wool rests beside her. During winter, spinning wool becomes one of the most important daily tasks. When the fields are frozen and the long days of farming are finished for the year, there is finally time for quieter work inside the home. She pulls a small strand of wool between her fingers. Slowly, carefully, she twists it. The spindle begins to turn, round and round. The soft fibers twist together into a long, thin thread. The movement is calm and practiced. She has done this thousands of times before. Her hands move almost without thinking. Spin, pull, twist, wind. Spin, pull, twist, wind. The rhythm is slow and steady, like the quiet passing of winter hours. Nearby, the young girl sits with a piece of cloth spread across her lap. She is learning to sew. In her small hands is a bone needle. The thread moves slowly through the thick wool fabric. She is repairing a sleeve from one of the family's tunics. Clothing must last a long time on a Viking farm. New cloth takes many hours of work to produce. First, the sheep must grow their wool. Then, the wool must be cleaned. Then spun into thread, then woven into fabric, then finally cut and sewn into clothing. Because of this long process, every piece of clothing is valuable. When something tears, it is repaired. When cloth becomes thin, patches are added. Nothing is wasted. The girl works carefully. Her stitches are not perfect yet, but they are improving. Across the room, the young boy sits beside his father. Between them lies a wooden tool handle that has cracked slightly. The father holds a small knife. With careful movements, he smooths the edges of a new wooden piece that will strengthen the handle. Woodworking is another important winter task. Tools must be repaired before spring returns. Plows, rakes, buckets, handles for axes and knives. Every tool must be ready when the snow melts and the farming season begins again. The father works patiently, shaving thin curls of wood from the handle. Each curl falls softly onto the floor. The smell of fresh wood fills the warm air of the longhouse. The boy watches closely. He is learning. One day, this farm will depend on his hands as well, so he studies every movement. The careful way the knife cuts along the grain, the slow turning of the wood in his father's hands, the quiet patience needed for good work. Outside, the wind moves lightly across the valley. Snow drifts slowly along the fences. From time to time, a raven passes overhead, its dark wings crossing the pale winter sky. Ravens are common visitors around northern farms. They watch quietly from tree branches. Sometimes they wait near the animal shelters, hoping to find small scraps of food. Their calls echo softly across the snowy hills, but mostly the land remains peaceful and still. Inside the animal shelter, the sheep lie quietly in their straw bedding. Their thick wool coats keep them warm even in the cold air. Now and then, one of them rises slowly, stretches its legs, and moves toward the hay that was placed earlier in the morning. The goats chew steadily. Their jaws move in slow circles as they grind the dried grass. Animals also follow the calm rhythm of winter. Eat, rest, stand quietly. Eat again. The day moves forward slowly. Back inside the longhouse, the spinning wheel continues its gentle motion. Spin, pull, twist, wind. The fire crackles softly. The wooden beams above hold the warmth close. Hanging from those beams are bundles of herbs collected during the summer. Thyme, wild garlic, dried flowers used for medicine. Even now, months after they were gathered, they still hold faint scents of the warm summer fields. Sometimes the mother reaches up and takes a small bundle. She crushes a few leaves between her fingers and adds them to the cooking pot over the fire. Even simple food becomes richer with a small taste of herbs. Soon the pot begins to warm again. The family will eat another meal before the daylight fades. Winter days are short here. The sun will begin its slow descent before long. But for now, the light still fills the room through the small openings along the wall. The father finishes shaping the wooden handle. He fits the new piece into place, carefully pressing it into the crack. Then he wraps it tightly with a strip of leather. The repair is strong now. The tool will be ready for spring. He places it beside the wall with the others. Each repaired tool waits patiently for the day when the ground softens and the fields awaken again. The boy smiles quietly. He enjoys these quiet hours. There is comfort in learning slow skills beside the fire. There is comfort in the calm voices of family members nearby. No rushing, no loud noise, only steady work and gentle warmth. As the afternoon moves closer, the pale winter sunlight begins to soften. The shadows outside grow longer across the snow. Soon the animals will need to be checked again. More wood will be added to the fire, and the quiet evening of the Viking farm will slowly begin. But for now, the longhouse remains warm. The family continues their gentle winter tasks, spinning wool, repairing cloth, carving wood, listening to the quiet wind outside. A simple day, a peaceful day. Another calm moment in the slow winter life of a small Viking farm. The pale winter sun begins its slow journey toward the hills. In the northern lands, the afternoon is never very long during winter. The light lingers softly for a few hours, and then gently begins to fade again. Outside the Viking farm, the snow reflects the quiet light of the sky. The valley looks wide and peaceful. Low hills surround the farm on three sides, their slopes covered in silent forests of pine and birch. The trees stand still beneath the weight of snow, their branches bending slightly under the soft white layers. From time to time, a small breeze moves through the valley. It carries tiny snow crystals across the surface of the ground. They slide lightly over the frozen fields, like soft drifting dust. Inside the longhouse, the warmth remains steady. The fire has grown stronger after the father added fresh logs earlier in the day. The flames move slowly along the wood, creating a soft, golden glow across the room. The smell of smoke and warm wood fills the air. It is a familiar smell, a comforting smell, the kind that Viking families would have known every day of winter. The mother lifts the iron pot from the hearth and stirs the contents slowly. The porridge from the morning has been replaced with a thicker stew. Inside the pot are pieces of dried fish, barley grains, and a handful of herbs taken from the bundles hanging above. The stew cooks slowly. Winter meals are rarely hurried. Slow cooking allows the flavors to spread gently through the food. Nearby, the young girl finishes the small repair she has been working on. She holds the tunic sleeve up toward the firelight. Her stitches are small and careful. The tear has nearly disappeared beneath the neat line of thread. She smiles quietly. Learning these small skills is an important part of growing up on a Viking farm. The mother notices her work and nods with approval. Soon, the girl will help sew larger pieces of clothing, cloaks and blankets, perhaps even sails one day if the family ever helps. Repair a fishing boat by the coast. Across the room, the boy has moved closer to the doorway. He peers outside through the narrow opening. The sky is changing again. The pale gray light is slowly becoming softer, deeper. Soon, the short winter afternoon will become evening. But before darkness arrives, there is still one more round of outdoor work to do. The father rises from his seat near the wall. He pulls his cloak around his shoulders once more. The leather boots wait beside the door, already stiff from the cold air earlier in the day. He steps outside first. The snow crunches gently beneath his feet. The boy follows him, eager to help again. The cold air greets them quietly, not sharp, not violent, but steady and clear. The valley feels even quieter now than it did in the morning. Winter afternoons often carry a deep stillness. Even the wind seems to rest for a while. They walk slowly toward the animal shelter again. Inside, the sheep lift their heads as the door opens. The goats shift their hooves against the straw bedding. Animals grow used to the rhythm of farm life. They know when food will arrive. They know when people will appear at the door. The father spreads another small bundle of hay across the shelter floor. The sheep move closer, their wool coats brushing softly against each other. The boy refills the water trough again. A thin layer of ice has already begun forming on the surface. He taps it gently with the wooden stick. The ice cracks with a quiet sound. Small pieces float across the water. The animals drink slowly. Their breath fills the shelter with warm clouds of air. When the work is finished, the boy steps outside again. He pauses for a moment beside the fence. From here he can see the entire valley. The snow-covered fields stretch outward like a wide white blanket. The small stream that runs near the farm is now hidden beneath a layer of ice. Only a narrow line of darker snow shows where the water flows beneath. Far away on the hills, a few thin lines of smoke rise into the sky. Other farms are there, other families living through the same quiet winter season. Though the valley is wide, the farms are never truly alone. Neighbors may be a long walk away, but they share the same land, the same weather, the same slow rhythm of life. Sometimes, when the weather is calm, families visit one another during winter evenings. They bring stories. They share small gifts of food. They sit together beside warm fires. But today, the valley remains peaceful and quiet. The father places a hand on the boy's shoulder. It is time to return inside. The cold grows stronger as the sun sinks lower. They walk back along the packed snow path toward the longhouse. Behind them, the animal shelter becomes quiet again. The sheep settle back into their straw. The goats continue chewing their hay. Inside the longhouse, the mother and daughter prepare wooden bowls for the evening meal. The firelight dances softly along the wooden walls. The pot of stew sends gentle steam into the warm air. Soon the family gathers together again around the hearth. The bowls are filled one by one. The stew is warm and filling. Simple food, but good food. The kind that brings comfort during the long winter season. They eat slowly. No one rushes. Outside, the sky darkens little by little. The pale winter sun disappears behind the hills, and the quiet evening begins to settle over the small Viking farm. The quiet evening settles gently over the small Viking farm. Outside, the last pale light of the winter day slowly disappears behind the distant hills. The sky becomes a deep gray blue, soft and calm above the silent valley. Snow continues to rest across the fields, glowing faintly in the fading light. A thin line of smoke rises from the roof of the longhouse. It drifts slowly upward into the still air, moving lazily, almost peacefully. Inside the longhouse, the warmth of the hearth grows stronger as the night approaches. The fire burns steadily at the center of the room. Its orange glow reflects softly against the wooden beams above and the smooth timber walls that surround the family's home. The room feels safe and warm, a gentle shelter against the quiet winter outside. The family sits close together near the hearth as they finish their evening meal. The stew has warmed their hands and stomachs. Simple food, slow food, prepared carefully from the stores gathered during the warmer months. Pieces of dried fish softened by the cooking water. Barley grains thickened into a comforting broth. A few herbs adding a quiet flavor. Nothing extravagant, but enough. Enough to bring warmth to the body during the long northern night. When the bowls are empty, the mother gathers them slowly. She rinses them with a small amount of water from the wooden bucket near the wall. Water is never wasted during winter. Every drop must be carried from the frozen stream outside, and breaking the ice takes effort. So the cleaning is careful and simple. The bowls are wiped with a cloth and placed back onto the wooden shelf. The young girl helps by folding the cloths used during the meal. Small tasks like this are part of the rhythm of the home. Each person contributes quietly to the life of the farm. The boy kneels near the hearth and adds another log to the fire. The flames respond slowly, curling around the new wood. Tiny sparks rise upward before fading into the dim air above. The crackling sound of the fire grows a little louder. It becomes the gentle heartbeat of the room. Outside, the darkness deepens. Winter nights in the north arrive early and stay long. But inside the longhouse, the hours are filled with quiet activities that pass the evening peacefully. The mother returns to her spinning. The spindle turns slowly once again. Spin, pull, twist, wind. The soft wool thread grows longer. Nearby, the father lifts a small wooden chest from beneath the bench where he sits. Inside the chest are several tools and small pieces of wood. He selects one small block and begins carving. His knife moves slowly, shaping the wood into a small spoon. Wooden spoons were used every day in Viking homes. They were simple, useful, and easy to make during long winter evenings. The boy watches closely. He sits beside his father, studying every movement. The careful way the knife glides along the grain of the wood. The slow shaping of the bowl of the spoon. Thin curls of wood fall gently onto the floor. The smell of fresh pine fills the warm air. Across the room, the young girl begins brushing wool fibers with two wooden paddles covered in fine metal teeth. This process prepares the wool for spinning. She pulls the paddles apart slowly. The wool becomes soft and smooth, light and airy like a small cloud. Preparing wool takes patience, but winter offers time for such quiet work. The evening passes slowly. The family speaks occasionally, but their voices remain soft and calm. Sometimes the father tells small stories from his own childhood, stories of winters when the snow piled even higher than the fences, stories of summers when the fields grew tall and green, stories of the nearby forests where deer moved quietly between the trees. The children listen with quiet interest. Storytelling is a gentle part of winter evenings. Before books were common, stories lived inside people's memories, passed from one voice to another, shared beside warm fires like this one. Outside, the sky grows darker. Stars begin appearing one by one above the valley. The northern sky during winter can be incredibly clear. Tiny points of light shimmer above the snow-covered hills. Sometimes, when the night is very cold and still, the stars seem almost close enough to touch. The boy steps quietly toward the door and opens it just a little. Cold air slips into the room, but he only peeks outside for a moment. The night sky is wide and beautiful. He sees the bright stars above the dark outlines of the trees. He closes the door gently and returns to the fire. The warmth welcomes him again. Inside the long house, the evening continues its slow rhythm. The spinning wheel turns. The carving knife shapes the spoon. The fire glows warmly at the center of everything. Hours pass quietly in this peaceful way. Eventually, the spoon is finished. The father rubs it gently with a cloth to smooth the surface. He holds it up toward the firelight. The wood glows softly. A new spoon for the family, made slowly, patiently, during a calm winter evening. He places it beside the other wooden utensils near the cooking area. Nearby, the spindle slows. The mother winds the final thread onto the wooden stick. Another small bundle of wool yarn completed. This yarn will later be woven into cloth or used to repair clothing. Winter is not a season of idleness. Even though the fields sleep beneath snow, the hands of the family remain busy, preparing, repairing, creating, always thinking ahead to the coming seasons. The young girl finishes brushing the wool and sets the paddles aside. The boy begins gathering. The wood curls from the floor and placing them into a small basket. Nothing is wasted. Even the wood shavings can help start tomorrow's fire. The night grows deeper. Outside, the valley rests under a quiet blanket of darkness and snow. Inside, the fire continues its soft glow. The family begins preparing for sleep. Cloaks are hung carefully along the wall. Boots are placed near the hearth to dry completely. Thick wool blankets are spread across the wooden sleeping benches. The warmth of the fire will last through much of the night, and someone will wake once or twice to add another log if the flames begin to fade. This is the quiet rhythm of winter life. Slow, peaceful, steady, a small Viking farm, surrounded by snow, protected by a warm wooden home, and filled with the calm sounds of family life. Outside, the stars continue shining above the silent valley, and inside the longhouse, the soft glow of the fire watches over the sleeping farm. The winter night stretches quietly across the valley. Outside the longhouse, the snow reflects the pale light of the stars. The sky above the hills is deep and wide, filled with countless small points of light. The cold air feels still, almost unmoving, as if the entire landscape has settled into a peaceful rest. The small Viking farm sleeps beneath this quiet sky. The animal shelter stands silent beside the longhouse. Inside, the sheep lie together in their thick beds of straw. Their wool coats hold warmth close to their bodies. From time to time, one of them shifts gently, the straw rustling softly beneath its hooves. The goats sleep as well, their breathing slow and steady. Animals understand winter nights in their own calm way. They rest deeply, conserving their strength until the morning comes again. Above them, the roof of the shelter holds a thin layer of snow. The snow rests quietly, undisturbed by wind. The entire valley feels calm. But inside the longhouse, the fire is still awake. The hearth at the center of the room glows with warm orange light. The flames move slowly across the logs, placed earlier in the evening. Small embers shine like tiny stars among the dark charcoal pieces. The warmth spreads gently through the room. Along the walls, the family sleeps beneath thick wool blankets and animal skins. Their breathing is slow and peaceful. The long day of winter work has left them comfortably tired. But, as is common on many Viking farms, someone always wakes during the night to check the fire. After several quiet hours, the father slowly opens his eyes. The room remains dim. The fire has grown smaller now, the flames softer and lower. He sits up slowly, careful not to wake the others. The wooden floor feels cool beneath his feet as he walks toward the hearth. The embers glow gently in the darkness. He kneels beside them and adds another piece of firewood. The log settles among the embers with a quiet sound. Soon the flames begin to grow again. First a small spark, then a thin line of orange light. Slowly the fire stretches upward, warming the room once more. He watches it for a moment. Fire was always something to respect. It brought warmth and life to the home. But it also required care. Left alone too long, it could fade into cold ash. Or if too large, it could grow dangerous. So, during long winter nights, someone always checked it from time to time. When the flames are strong again, he returns quietly to his bed. The longhouse settles back into stillness. Outside, the stars slowly drift across the sky as the earth turns quietly beneath them. Somewhere far above the hills, faint curtains of pale light begin to appear. Soft green and silver waves shimmer across the northern sky. These are the northern lights. The Vikings often watched these glowing lights dancing across the winter night. To them, the sky was full of mystery and stories. Some believed the lights were reflections from the armor of distant warriors. Others believed they were signs from the gods. But on this quiet night, no one on the small farm is awake to see them. The family sleeps peacefully beneath the warm roof of the longhouse. Hours pass slowly. The fire continues to burn softly. The wind outside brushes gently against the wooden walls, and deep beneath the snow, the frozen ground waits patiently for spring. Eventually, the darkest part of the night begins to fade. Far in the east, the sky becomes slightly lighter. The stars grow dimmer one by one. Another winter morning is slowly approaching. Inside the longhouse, the fire still glows. The warmth remains gentle and steady. Soon, the mother will wake again to begin the quiet morning routine. Water will warm over the fire. Porridge will cook slowly. Boots will step once more into the snow outside. Animals will greet the new day with soft sounds of movement. But for now, the farm rests in the final peaceful moments of the night. The longhouse is calm. The fire glows quietly, and the silent Viking valley waits for the slow return of daylight. The first light of morning returns quietly to the valley. It begins as a soft gray glow along the distant horizon. The stars slowly fade one by one, their gentle brightness disappearing into the pale winter sky. Snow covers the land exactly as it did the evening before. The fields remain smooth and white. The fences stand quietly, their wooden posts rising like dark lines from the deep snow. The small Viking farm begins another calm winter day. Inside the longhouse, the fire still glows from the night. The log, placed on the hearth hours earlier, has burned slowly, leaving warm red embers beneath a thin layer of ash. A faint warmth continues to spread through the wooden room. Soon the mother wakes. She opens her eyes slowly, listening for a moment to the quiet sounds of the house. The wind brushes softly against the walls. The fire crackles gently. The others are still asleep beneath their blankets. She rises carefully and moves toward the hearth. The wooden floor feels cool beneath her feet, but the warmth from the fire is still enough to keep the room comfortable. She kneels beside the embers and stirs them gently with a long wooden stick. Ash shifts quietly. A few small sparks appear. Then she adds several pieces of dry kindling. The fire responds slowly, like a sleepy companion waking for the day. A thin flame appears, then another. Soon the warm glow grows brighter again, filling the longhouse with soft orange light. Morning has begun. She places the iron pot over the hearth and fills it with water from the wooden bucket beside the wall. Soon the water will warm, and the first meal of the day will begin. Outside, the sky grows brighter. The sun has not yet appeared above the hills, but the soft light spreads gently across the valley. Snow reflects the pale morning glow. Inside the animal shelter, the sheep begin to stir. One of them rises slowly, stretching its legs. The straw rustles quietly beneath its hooves. The goats lift their heads and blink in the dim morning light. Animals sense the coming of the day even before the sun arrives. Back in the longhouse, the girl begins to wake. She pulls her blanket closer for a moment, enjoying the warmth of the bed. The firelight flickers softly against the wooden wall beside her. Then she sits up and stretches. The smell of warming water and faint smoke fills the air. She knows the morning routine well. Soon the porridge will be cooking. Soon Boots will step into the snow again. Across the room, the boy stirs as well. He rubs his eyes and listens to the quiet sounds of the house waking up. There is comfort in these familiar sounds. The gentle movement of someone near the fire. The soft creaking of wooden beams. The calm voices of family members greeting the morning. The father wakes last. He sits up slowly and pulls his wool cloak around his shoulders. Winter mornings are cold, even inside the longhouse, but the warmth of the fire makes the start of the day comfortable. Soon the iron pot begins to steam gently. The mother pours barley, grains into the warm water, and stirs, slowly with a wooden spoon. The porridge thickens as it cooks. The simple smell of warm grain fills the room. The children gather their wooden bowls. They sit near the hearth where the warmth is strongest. The fire crackles softly. Outside, the pale winter sun finally begins to appear above the distant hills. It rises slowly, spreading a gentle light across the snowy land. Another winter day has begun on the Viking farm. The father pulls on his boots and prepares to step outside once again. The animals will be waiting. Hay must be carried. Water must be checked. Snow must be cleared from the path near the shelter. These small tasks happen every day during winter. Not difficult work, but steady work. The kind of work that keeps the farm strong until spring returns. He opens the heavy wooden door. Cold air flows inside for a moment. The boy follows him eagerly, pulling his cloak around his shoulders. Outside, the snow crunches beneath their boots. The morning air is crisp and clear. The valley stretches quietly before them. Thin smoke rises from a few distant farms across the hills. Other families are waking as well. Other fires are being stirred. Other bowls of porridge are warming beside hearths just like this one. The father and son walk slowly toward the animal shelter. The sky above them continues to brighten. The quiet rhythm of winter life continues, just as it did yesterday and the day before. Inside the shelter, the sheep greet them with soft sounds. The goats step closer, ready for their morning hay. The boy smiles quietly. He enjoys these calm moments, the cold air, the peaceful animals, the wide, snowy valley surrounding their home. Winter on a Viking farm may be long, but it is filled with quiet routines, steady warmth, and the calm rhythm of daily life. and as the pale sun climbs gently into the sky, the new day begins once again. The morning light spreads slowly across the valley. The pale winter sun climbs only a little above the distant hills. In these northern lands, the sun never rises very high during the coldest months. Its light feels soft and quiet, almost like a lantern glowing gently above the snowy fields. The father and son walk carefully through the snow toward the animal shelter. Each step makes a slow crunching sound beneath their boots. The path they follow has been walked many times during the winter weeks. The snow along it has become firm and packed, making it easier to move between the buildings. The cold air touches their faces, but their wool cloaks and fur-lined boots keep them warm. Inside the shelter, the animals are already awake. The sheep stand slowly and stretch their legs. Their thick wool coats keep them comfortable even in the cool air of the shelter. The goats step closer to the door as the father enters. Animals quickly learn the rhythm of the farm. They know when the morning hay arrives. They know the quiet footsteps of the people who care for them. The father lifts another bundle of dried hay from the wooden storage box beside the wall. The hay is pale and dry, collected months earlier when the summer fields were green and tall. Each bundle represents long hours of work beneath the warm sun of the past season. Now, during winter, that summer work becomes the animal's food. He spreads the hay slowly across the floor. The sheep lower their heads and begin chewing. The goats nibble eagerly at the edges of the bundle. Their steady chewing fills the shelter with a calm, comforting sound. The boy moves toward the water trough. During the night, a thin sheet of ice has formed across the surface again. He taps the ice gently with the wooden stick he carries. Crack! The ice breaks into floating pieces. He lifts them out and places them beside the trough. Soon the animals begin drinking. Their breath rises into the cool air in soft clouds. Outside, the pale sunlight continues to brighten the valley. The boy steps out of the shelter and pauses for a moment. He looks across the quiet land surrounding the farm. Snow stretches across the fields like a wide blanket. The wooden fences form dark lines across the white ground. Beyond the fields, the forest stands tall and silent. The pine trees hold snow along their branches, creating soft white shapes against the darker green needles. From somewhere deep within the forest comes the distant call of a bird, a raven perhaps, or a winter crow. Its voice echoes briefly across the cold air before fading again into silence. The father steps outside as well, closing the shelter door carefully behind him. He pauses beside the boy and looks out across the valley. Winter on a farm is a time for watching the land as much as working it. Farmers learn to read the sky. They watch the clouds, the wind, the patterns of snow. These small signs help them understand what the coming days might bring. Today, the sky is calm and clear. Thin clouds drift slowly far above. It will likely remain a quiet day. The father nods slightly, satisfied with the peaceful weather. They walk back toward the longhouse together. Their breath floats gently in the air as they walk. Behind them, the animals settle into their morning feeding. Inside the longhouse, the warmth of the hearth welcomes them again. The porridge is ready now. Steam rises slowly from the pot as the mother stirs the thick mixture one final time. The wooden bowls wait along the bench. The family gathers around the hearth once more. Each bowl is filled with warm barley porridge. A small spoonful of honey is shared again between the children. The sweetness spreads slowly through the warm grain. Outside, the pale sun continues its slow climb. Inside, the family eats quietly. The warmth of the food spreads through their bodies. Another calm winter day is beginning. Soon there will be more quiet tasks. Clothing to mend, tools to repair, wood to carry. But for now, the family sits together beside the fire. The longhouse glows with warmth. The wind brushes gently against the walls, and the peaceful rhythm of life on the small Viking farm continues, steady and calm, through another quiet winter morning. The morning meal finishes slowly beside the warm hearth. The wooden bowls are empty now, but the gentle warmth of the porridge still lingers. The family remains seated for a few quiet moments, enjoying the comfort of the fire and the calm beginning of the day. Outside, the pale winter sun rests low in the sky. Its light spreads softly across the snow-covered valley, turning the white fields into a wide sheet of silver. Inside the longhouse, the mother gathers the bowls and rinses them carefully with a small amount of water. The water is precious during winter, and every drop is used with care. The bowls are dried with a cloth and placed back upon the wooden shelf. Nearby, the father stands and stretches slowly. The quiet work of the morning is about to begin again. Winter on a Viking farm is not filled with large tasks like planting or harvesting. Those busy days belong to the warmer seasons. But winter has its own important work. Quiet work, careful work, work that prepares the farm for the future. The father moves toward the wall where several tools hang from wooden pegs. He lifts a small axe and examines its handle. The wood has become slightly rough after months of use. It is not broken, but winter is the perfect time to repair and smooth such tools. He sits near the fire and begins carefully shaving the handle with a small knife. Thin curls of wood fall softly to the floor once again. The boy watches for a moment before beginning his own task. He gathers a small basket filled with wool that the girl brushed the night before. He carries it toward the bench beside the window opening. There he begins gently pulling the wool fibers apart with his fingers. The wool must be loosened and cleaned before it can be spun into thread. His movements are slow and patient. The soft fibers drift lightly in the air before settling back into the basket. Across the room, the girl sits beside her mother. The spindle turns again. Spin, pull, twist, wind. The quiet rhythm fills the room like a calm song. The thread grows longer with each slow turn of the spindle. Soon enough, thread will be ready to weave new cloth. Winter offers time for such careful preparation. In the warmer months, the family must spend long days outside in the fields. But now, with the land resting beneath snow, their work moves indoors. The longhouse becomes both home and workshop. The fire continues to glow steadily at the center of the room. Its warmth spreads outward to every corner. From time to time, the father adds another small log. The flames respond gently, licking along the fresh wood. Outside, the sky remains calm. The wind moves lightly across the valley. The snow glitters softly beneath the winter sun. Near the edge of the forest, a fox moves quietly through the snow. Its thick red fur stands bright against the white ground. It walks carefully, nose close to the surface, listening for small movements beneath the snow, perhaps a mouse or another tiny creature hiding from the cold. The fox pauses, its ears twitch. Then it leaps lightly forward, landing in the snow with a soft puff of powder. Moments later, it continues moving through the trees, disappearing into the quiet forest. Life continues even in the deep winter. Animals move silently across the land. Birds search for seeds among the frozen grasses. And beneath the snow, the earth rests patiently, waiting for the warmth of spring. Back inside the longhouse, the work continues slowly. The father finishes smoothing the axe handle. He rubs the wood with a piece of cloth and a little animal fat, protecting it from moisture and cracking. The tool is strong and ready for many more seasons of work. He places it back on the wall. Nearby, the girl finishes winding a length of thread onto the spindle. She places it carefully beside the growing collection of yarn. The mother smiles softly. Each small bundle of thread will eventually become cloth. Each quiet hour of winter work slowly builds the future clothing of the family. The boy finishes loosening the wool fibers. The basket is now full of soft, airy wool ready for spinning. He carries it to his mother and places it beside her. She thanks him gently. The quiet teamwork of the family continues. Outside, the winter sun begins its slow journey downward. The daylight hours in these northern lands are short. Already the afternoon light begins to soften. Soon the animals will need to be checked again. Hay will be carried. Water will be broken free from ice. The firewood pile will be visited once more. But for now, the longhouse remains warm and calm. The family works quietly together, spinning, carving, preparing wool, maintaining tools. The steady rhythm of winter life continues, a simple rhythm, a peaceful rhythm, one that repeats gently day after day across many small farms throughout the Viking lands. And as the soft afternoon light drifts across the snow outside, the quiet life of the farm continues once again. The quiet winter afternoon begins to soften. Outside the longhouse, the pale sun slowly drifts toward the distant hills. Its light stretches across the snowy valley in long, gentle shadows. The fields glow softly, and the trees along the forest edge appear dark and still against the bright snow. Inside the longhouse, the warmth of the hearth continues to fill the room. The fire burns calmly, the flames moving slowly along the pieces of wood placed there earlier. A soft, crackling sound rises and falls, steady and comforting. The family continues their quiet work. The mother spins more wool thread. The spindle turns again and again, the rhythm almost like a gentle heartbeat within the room. Spin, pull, twist, wind. The girl watches the spindle for a moment before returning to her sewing. A small tear in one of the wool blankets is being repaired. The blanket is thick and warm, made many winters ago from carefully woven wool. Clothing and blankets on a Viking farm were always made to last a very long time. Across the room, the father stands slowly. He glances toward the door. The afternoon has reached the time when the animals must be checked once more. Winter days are short, and the farm must prepare before darkness returns again. He pulls his wool cloak around his shoulders and steps toward the wooden door. The boy notices immediately. Without a word, he rises and follows. He enjoys these small walks outside with his father. The door opens. A quiet wave of cold air enters the longhouse for just a moment before the door closes again behind them. Outside, the snow reflects the fading light of the winter sun. The air feels calm and clear. Their breath rises softly as they walk. The path between the longhouse and the shelter is easy to follow now. Many footsteps have pressed the snow into a firm trail. They move slowly toward the animal shelter. Inside, the sheep lift their heads again as the door opens. The goats shift their hooves and blink toward the light. The animals recognize the routine of the day. Another small bundle of hay is spread across the floor. The sheep begin chewing quietly. The goats nibble along the edges. Their steady movements bring a gentle sense of life to the small wooden shelter. The boy checks the water trough once again. A thin layer of ice has returned. He breaks it carefully with the stick. The pieces float for a moment before he lifts them out. Soon the animals lower their heads to drink. The shelter grows quiet again, except for the calm sounds of eating and breathing. When their work is finished, the father and son step back outside. The sun now rests very low above the hills. The sky has begun to change color. Soft shades of pale gold and silver spread across the horizon. Winter sunsets arrive slowly but beautifully in the north. For a few quiet minutes, the boy stands beside the fence and looks across the valley. The land appears peaceful. The snow-covered fields stretch far into the distance. Thin lines of smoke rise from 2 farms across the hills. Other families are preparing their own evening fires. Other animals are being fed. Other quiet homes are glowing with warm firelight, just like theirs. The father places a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. It is time to return. They walk slowly back toward the longhouse. Behind them, the sky continues to darken. Inside the house, the mother has already begun preparing the evening meal. The iron pot hangs above the hearth once more. Water warms slowly inside it. Soon, dried fish and barley will be added again. The girl places wooden bowls beside the bench. The fire glows warmly across the room. When the father and boy step inside again, the warmth surrounds them immediately. Their cloaks carry a dusting of snow. They hang them along the wall to dry. The boy moves closer to the hearth and stretches his hands toward the fire. The heat feels comforting after the cold air outside. The family gathers together again as the evening slowly begins. Outside, the last light of the winter sun disappears behind the hills. The valley grows quiet beneath the early darkness. Inside the longhouse, the fire glows bright and steady. The evening meal begins to cook. Soft voices fill the room. The calm rhythm of another winter day continues on the small Viking farm. And slowly, gently, the peaceful night begins to arrive once again. The winter evening settles slowly over the small Viking farm. Outside, darkness spreads gently across the valley. The last traces of the sun have disappeared behind the distant hills, leaving the sky a deep and peaceful blue. Snow reflects the faint glow of the early night. The fields look almost silver beneath the quiet sky. The forest at the edge of the valley stands silent and still, its tall pine trees holding small blankets of snow along their branches. The wind moves softly through the trees. It carries a gentle whisper across the frozen land. But inside the longhouse, warmth and light continue to glow. The hearth fire burns steadily in the center of the room. Its flames dance quietly along the wood, sending soft shadows across the walls. The iron pot above the fire releases slow curls of steam. The evening meal is almost ready. The family gathers once again around the hearth. This daily moment of sitting together near the fire is one of the most comforting parts of winter life. Outside, the world may be cold and dark, but inside the longhouse, the warmth of the fire and the presence of family make the night peaceful. The mother lifts the wooden ladle and gently stirs the pot. Inside the stew are barley grains, pieces of dried fish, and herbs gathered months earlier from the summer fields. The scent of the warm meal fills the room. It mixes with the familiar smell of wood smoke and wool. The girl places the wooden bowls carefully along the bench. The boy brings a small loaf of flat barley bread that had been baked earlier in the day. Simple food, but good food. The kind that gives strength through the long winter nights. The father fills each bowl slowly. Steam rises from the stew as it settles into the wooden dishes. The family begins to eat quietly. No one rushes. Winter evenings move slowly, and meals are enjoyed with patience. The warmth of the stew spreads through their bodies. Outside, the night grows deeper. Stars begin to appear above the valley once more. One by one, small lights fill the wide northern sky. Sometimes the winter sky seems endless, a quiet ceiling of glittering stars stretching far beyond the snowy hills. Inside the longhouse, the fire crackles softly. The family finishes their meal. The bowls are cleaned and returned to the shelf. The evening continues with its familiar rhythm. The mother returns to spinning wool. The spindle turns slowly once again. Spin, pull, twist, wind. The girl begins brushing more wool fibers for tomorrow's spinning. Her wooden paddles move gently back and forth. The father lifts another piece of wood and begins carving again. Tonight, he shapes a small wooden handle for one of the farm's buckets. The knife moves slowly along the grain. Thin curls of wood fall quietly to the floor. The boy sits nearby, watching closely. These quiet evenings are times for learning, times when knowledge passes from one generation to the next. He studies the careful movements of his father's hands. He learns patience. He learns the steady rhythm of winter work. Outside, the valley remains calm. The animals rest quietly in their shelter. The sheep sleep close together in the straw. The goats lie comfortably, their breathing slow and peaceful. Snow continues to cover the fields without disturbance. Even the forest seems to sleep beneath the dark sky. Hours pass gently. The work inside the longhouse slows. The carved wooden handle is finished and set beside the tools. The last threads of wool are wound carefully onto the spindle. The brushed wool is gathered into a basket for tomorrow. The fire continues to glow warmly. The family begins preparing for sleep. Blankets are spread across the wooden sleeping benches. Boots are placed near the hearth so they will remain dry and warm. Cloaks hang quietly along the wall. The father adds another log to the fire. The flames rise once more, filling the room with soft, golden light. Soon the family settles into their beds. The blankets are thick and warm. The sounds of the fire become softer as the room grows quiet. Outside, the stars shine above the peaceful valley. The wind moves gently across the snow. The small Viking farm rests once again beneath the calm northern night. Another winter day has ended, and within the warm wooden walls of the longhouse, the steady rhythm of life continues. Slow, quiet, and peaceful. The quiet winter night continues across the valley. Outside the longhouse, the snow reflects the faint silver glow of the stars. The sky above the northern land feels wide and endless, stretching silently above the forests and frozen fields. The small Viking farm rests peacefully beneath that sky. Inside the longhouse, the fire burns low but steady. The log placed on the hearth before sleep has slowly turned into glowing embers. Small lines of orange light pulse gently within the dark wood, sending a soft warmth into the room. The family sleeps along the wooden benches that line the walls. Their blankets of wool and animal skins keep the cold away. The room is quiet except for the gentle sounds of breathing and the faint crackling of the fire. Winter nights are long in the north, long enough for deep rest, long enough for the body to recover from the quiet work of the day. Outside, the animal shelter stands calm beside the longhouse. Inside, the sheep sleep together in the straw. Their thick wool coats hold warmth close, and their bodies rest peacefully against one another. The goats lie nearby, their legs tucked comfortably beneath them. From time to time, one of the animals shifts slightly, the straw rustling softly beneath its hooves. But mostly, the shelter remains silent. Across the valley, other small farms rest in the same quiet way. Other fires glow faintly through the night. Other families sleep beneath turf roofs and wooden beams. Winter connects these farms through shared rhythms, shared weather, shared patience. Hours pass slowly beneath the dark sky. The stars move gently across the heavens as the earth turns quietly. Somewhere above the distant hills, faint green lights begin to shimmer across the sky once again. Soft waves of color drift across the northern darkness. The northern lights dance slowly and silently above the sleeping land. But inside the longhouse, no one wakes to see them tonight. The warmth of the hearth and the comfort of sleep hold the family peacefully. Eventually, as the night continues, the father wakes briefly once more. It is something he has done many times through many winters. He opens his eyes and listens to the quiet room. The fire has grown smaller again. He rises slowly and walks toward the hearth. The embers glow faintly. He places another small log onto the fire. The wood settles among the glowing coals. Soon a thin flame appears. Then another. The fire begins to grow once more. Warmth spreads gently through the room again. He watches for a moment. Fire is always watched with care. It brings life to the home during winter, but it must be tended with patience. When he is satisfied, he returns quietly to his bed. The longhouse settles back into silence. Outside, the northern lights fade slowly. The stars continue their quiet journey across the sky. The frozen valley rests beneath the peaceful darkness. Deep beneath the snow, the earth waits patiently. Seeds sleep in the frozen soil. Streams move slowly beneath their layers of ice. Trees rest quietly in the forests. All of nature pauses during the long winter season, waiting, resting, preparing, and just as the farm prepares for the seasons to come, the land itself prepares for spring. Though winter may feel long, the cycle of the year continues steadily. Soon the days will slowly grow longer. The sun will rise a little higher in the sky. Snow will soften. The frozen streams will begin to flow again. Animals will wander further across the valley. Fields will awaken beneath the warming soil. But for now, winter remains calm and steady, and the small Viking farm continues its quiet life within that season. Inside the longhouse, the family sleeps peacefully beside the warm hearth. The wooden beams hold the warmth. The fire glows softly. The blankets remain thick and comfortable. The calm rhythm of winter life continues through the night. Slow, steady, peaceful, and somewhere beyond the snowy hills, the first faint light of morning will eventually begin its return. But until then, the valley remains quiet. The farm rests beneath the stars, and the gentle story of a winter day on a Viking farm comes to its calm and peaceful close.